whooping for the first 15 minutes by design on my part. And, you do that to some people and they don't come back. Rick's a champion and he saw his opportunity. He fought like heck. And boy, that match, that last 15 minutes was, and when he pinned me, they went nuts. But it was like, we needed that 15 minutes of just, you could have dropped a pin. That sold out Charlotte. And that was designed by me. So, there's once again, it was a pretty good call on my part. Actually, a great call on my part. And,
And supposedly there was something on Twitter with you guys lately. I actually didn't follow it on Twitter, but I heard Ric Flair say that there was some type of an argument, but you guys actually called each other and now it's sorted out.
Yeah, we sorted it out. It's just, I was listening to this stuff about how he had blacked my eyes and he'd beat me up. And so I tweeted something about it. And, in response, I said, well, that wasn't the case. And blah, blah, blah. And then so he responded to me. And so we got into it a little bit. But all in all, Rick's a pretty good guy. He really is. He's a very good guy. And if he likes you and he's on your side, you have a real ally. I've never had a problem with him. I don't know what he feels about me at this point, but I know
you said you were all cool the last thing I heard, so.
You know what? I like Rick, and, I love working with him because, man, what a baby face. Good Lord. Jeez. If you had baby faces like that, wow.
And how did things change when Hogan came into the company?
Well, just the dynamics, He came in and beat Flair 4 straight. And come on, it's like, Flair just beat me 2, and then 2 straight. And then it just changed. And I don't know if that was them or him. And, Sting was making so much money. I was making so much money. Flair was making so much money. He comes in and making, triple what we're making. So it disrupted things. But, and you say, well, if he's worth it, but he didn't. The numbers stayed the same. Didn't get any better. And that's the bottom line there. The numbers didn't get any better. Now, I don't know what he did after I was gone or, what they did with the Nitro thing. Maybe it happened, but...
But as a baby face, it was just after the steroid stuff. It looked like he was off steroids possibly at that time because he had shrunk significantly.
Definitely was. Yeah, he had shrunk. Yeah. But, to his credit, he still looked okay,
And what were the actual matches? What was he like in ring?
Yeah, he was slow. I had to slow down substantially. It wasn't... you fight Rick, he's an athlete. Rick's the real deal. And I'm not saying Hogan's not the real deal because Hulk Hogan deserves every bit of credit you can give him for an in-ring star because he created that persona, everything. He did all that. But, he was slowing down at this point and had a bad back. So, he was doing the best he could with what he had. And he could still make it work. He could still put it up and put it down.
And before we move on from WCW, Dusty Rhodes was a booker for a lot of the time you were in WCW. What were your thoughts on him as a booker?
Best, man. He made Vader. His first day, he just said, Leon, we're going to put you and Sting together and we're going to light this house on fire because before that they didn't have anything. They didn't have a thing. And then Sting and I caught fire, and then another 2 caught fire, and then the tag team caught fire, and then suddenly the company was on fire. So it's like, the term business creates business. And that's what this was, Sting and I was creating other things because people say, hey, they're doing it, it's just contagious,
And something happened backstage in WCW at a time when you were probably at one of your peaks in popularity in America with Paul Orndorff.
My God.
We've heard a lot of his side of the story.
Yeah, stop right there. You know what? Paul has made a living talking about this night. And one of the things he says, and you know what? I understand Paul's sick. I guess he's got throat cancer, is that right?
Yeah.
So, it's hard to say this, but, I was there that night, and Paul had a crippled right hand. His right hand was the same size as my wrist all the way up to his shoulder. And that's the hand he he hit me with. So, real quick, I got to tell the story because I've heard Paul. You know, it's like he won't let it die. It's like 20 years ago he was saying this, and then today he's still saying it. He's still doing interviews about it. And one of the things he said was, you know, I got 5 extra years of my contract. He kind of smiled, and I need to speak out because I never have really. I mean, I've told my side of the story, but
I've always downplayed it.
yeah, I always downplayed it. But you know, this is the honest to God's truth. So help me God. This Eric Bischoff called me at 8 a.m. at the Marriott and said, Leon, you have promised me pictures for a photo shoot for weeks. You got to do them today or you're fired. And he says, I'm not kidding. So, hey, you get up and you go. And so I had lunch and I went, did the photo shoot, like 3.5 hour, 4 hour photo shoot. So exhausted. And I'm driving over to CNN Center. And when I left the photo shoot at the towers, the Atlanta Towers where the execs are, that's where the photo shoot was. I said, someone call and tell someone why I'm late because I don't want to go in there and have to explain myself. And they said, we will, Leon. Don't worry. We'll take care of it. You know, the photographers, you know. And it didn't happen. Of course it didn't happen. So when I got into the locker room and sat down, Paul, first thing came in, Leon, where in the fuck have you been? Who in the fuck do you think you are to show up 3 hours late? And I was trying to explain to him, I said, Paul, like politely, Paul, I mean, didn't someone tell you I've been over doing? So then I said, you know, if that's not good enough for you, you can go fuck yourself because I've had it. I mean, this is, you know, I'm not getting cussed out by you. You're not my boss. And he thought he was. And you know what? I had been told specifically that during that period of time, Dusty Rhodes was my boss, period. And Eric Bischoff, those two. Other than that, no one is above you. Those two guys.
Yeah.
And I think Sting had the same arrangement. Hogan had, well, maybe even a different arrangement. Maybe Eric Bischoff couldn't tell him what to do. But that's neither here nor there. So he turned around and walked out. And Terry Taylor comes in and gets me, Leon, regardless of where you were or what, you know, we got to do some interviews. So I got my mask, took my shirt off, got my rubber hose so I could pump up, and I'm running to do the interviews. And Paul steps in and blocks me from going to the interviews. And he called me everything in a book and threatened me to my face to face. So I slapped him. I thought that was a threat to my well-being and my safety. You know, hey, you're going to tell me you're going to beat the hell out of me? Well, you know, I'm going to defend myself. So I slapped him. His feet came off the ground and he hit his back hit the cement and his head just missed this steel toolbox where we put the tools to put the ring together. Right. I thought, my God, if his head hit that, I'm done. I mean, don't matter why I'm late. I mean, if his head hits that and he's hurt, I'm fired and probably go to jail. And so I went over and put my hand on his chest. Paul, are you okay? And he's like he was coming to because he hit the ground hard. I slapped the shit out of him. So Paul's got a right arm about the size of this wrist all the way up. And he's 200 pounds. I mean, he's really in bad shape, you know, physically. He's not the Paul Orndorff that you would, you know, that 260, 270 pound guy. He's like 200 pounds, 215. And so when he gets up and I'm thinking, you know what, if I fight him back and do what I think I should do to defend myself, I'm going to get fired at the very least. And maybe I'm going to hurt him because he's just, so I thought I had slapped him initially, so I wanted to get that back. So I let him hit me in the face. And it was nothing. It was that weak right hand. And he hit me a second time, hit me a third time. And I grabbed him. And I looked him in the eye. When I grabbed him, I looked him in the eye and said, that ain't good enough. You just hit me 3 times. And, you know, I mean, I let him. And I remember people going, whoa, whoa, whoa. I mean, you know, so I grabbed him and we went to the ground. There was some Coke on the floor. Someone had spilled the Coke and we slipped on the Coke. And so he had got up first and he kicked me in the face. I remember that, and I got up and grabbed him, and we went into the coach's room, fighting like a wrestling type fight. But that was it. I mean, and then the next day, how Paul had beat me up, and what they're seeing is those 3 hits to the face, and I mean, it was like It was like my 12-year-old son hitting me in the face. It didn't happen. And you know what? That above, in my entire career, that is one thing that sticks in my craw. It's something no matter who I tell or how I tell it. It's like, this thing hanging over my head, and it really does bother me.
Is it true that Ming was involved in breaking that up?
Yeah. In other words, when I took him into the coach's room, Ming came up behind me and said, "Leon, that's enough. You're going to hurt him." And at that point, I didn't want to mess with Ming because that would have been a mistake, I think.
He's one of the people that...
you know what? Not only was he fresh, I just got done fighting, but no, you don't want to mess with me.
Did you ever get the chance to see him in action in a bar?
I never did, but I'd heard about him.
And you were... Oh, sorry, what were you going to say?
That sometimes is the worst, not seeing. Because you see, well, that it ain't so good, or it is really good, but sometimes you can't see, But that whole thing with Paul, and it's like, how many times have you heard that interview lately? I mean, this is 30 years after the fact. He's still telling the same story. He's still getting over on this thing. It's like his thing, his claim to fame.
That would have been about, yeah.
So he's hanging on to that bullshit story, and that's exactly what it is. It's bullshit.
And ultimately, you got released over that, and...
No.
Nope.
No. Ultimately, Eric Bischoff, and this was probably the second mistake I made, because getting into, slapping Orndorff felt good, but it was wrong. I mean, no way should I punch first, right? He got in my face. I said, go. I should have told him to go and take his best shot, and once he did, then I could have, done anything I want with impunity. But so that was the first mistake. The second mistake was when Eric, he did send me home. And he, I had heard that I was going over Hogan on the first Nitro, which was coming up. And I was in suspension. So they were going to bring me out of suspension, like this big thing.
To have a surprise.
Yeah, surprise. And
because at that point, they hadn't made the deal with Luger. They were looking for something big.
And I was going to run Hogan. Yeah, they were looking for something big. And, I had heard that, much to my surprise, Eric was in my corner saying, "Hey, Leon, it's a hard worker, and he's... he took that WCW belt for a year and never once, they had a bad match."
And you were on the opening, actually, for the first Nitro, even though you never wrestled on Nitro. So that really adds some...
So I heard that, and then, so Eric says, well, during this period of time off, we want you to take a 6-month pay cut, and that's a lot of money. I said, Eric, for this? I mean... I said, I can't see 6 months pay cut. I mean, that's a half your salary. That's what? Close to $400,000 fine. Shit, man. I mean, how about 150, 200? I mean, something's, and he wouldn't come off that. And so I told Eric that if that was his decision, that I was going to go elsewhere. And that...
And I just wanted to bring up, you did mention your salary close to $400,000. I don't know if you want to talk about it, we can cut this out.
That was half of it.
Yeah, that was half it. I'm only going to bring this up because there was a recent podcast with Bruce Pritchard, and it was brought up on that podcast that you were making about around that 750 range, and Bruce Pritchard shot it down and said, no, there's no way Vader would have been making that much.
How in the bleep would Bruce Pritchard, WWE official, know what I was making in WCW? Because the only two people that really know what I made was Eric, and I guess the WCW officials, the suits, and my agent and me.
So and without saying the number,
everything else was just, Ric Flair. Well, come on, Eric, tell me. So Eric shoots out a number to make Rick happy, and Eric's not going to, Eric was under contract. I mean, he had signed my contract, and it said, confidentiality. We had a confidentiality clause. I didn't want no one to know. So, I mean, Flair, I'm not trying to badmouth Flair, but someone, hey, heard something and says something, so.
So basically, due to that pay cut reason, that's when you started talking to WWE?
Well, the fine.
Oh, the fine.
I didn't want to take the fine.
Yeah.
They said, you take the 6-month suspension and this fine. and you can come back. And you know what? And I said, come back with my full contract. In other words, he said, yeah, I'll do that for you. And in other words, the 6 months work wasn't going to be deducted, which was very fair on Eric's part. And see, that didn't stick in my mind that I'd come back even after 6 months. Things would have been, I could have been in great shape, lost some weight, got tan, then came back and made a real run out of it. Whether it would have worked or not, I don't know. But I think I would have liked to have tried that,
So what made you make the big jump finally?
Well, I got a settlement, so we settled out on my contract, which was substantial because there was like, I don't know, six years left. But, if you multiply those 6 years of what I would have made, so it was a bad mistake on my part. But what, I don't know. I think pride and, pride in business don't work. So that was a big, big mistake.
Is it true that they were going to originally call you the Mastodon when you switched? Or there was talk
to Vince?
Yeah.
Vince asked me, he said, what about the Mastodon? And you know what, looking back on it, I mean, why not make Vince happy? I said, no, I'm Big Van Vader. It's Vader time. And why would we change that? People aren't going to know who I am. And he said, they're going to know who you are. And so Vince was talking to me on the phone, trying to talk me into the Mastodon. And I tell the boss, no. It's like, come on.
So you think that could have been a nail in your coffin ultimately?
Well, it was like I was so sure of myself. And, and I was going in against Yokozuna. And here's this big 600-pound Samoan. And, I guess we had pretty good matches. It was just pretty much a slugfest. We stood there and slugged each other because he just, after a while, he couldn't move,
Do you think they should have brought you in more with jobbers to kind of build you in WWE more rather than throw you in with a huge guy that's actually even heavier than you right away?
Well, who knows what turned that whole thing. I mean, I don't know if I agree to the Mastodon, because he copyrights it. I guess that meant money for him.
Yeah.
And
that's why he likes to own everybody's name, I guess.
Well, but if you're getting paid, what do I care? So it was a terrible mistake. So the next thing I know, I'm with Sean, and you know what? You're doing a few jobs for the champion's one thing, and then getting jobbed every night by the champion is another. So that's where it all went south for me.
And you were teamed with Jim Cornette as your manager.
Yeah.
What did you think of having him manage you?
Well, I mean, come on. Jim's a great manager, but compared to Harley Race, it just didn't feel right,
And regarding your feud with Michaels, I guess this was he's even openly admitted this now that he had, I guess, some medication issues and...
You think? I didn't know he admitted it, but...
well, now he's a born-again Christian.
And you know what? I couldn't be more happy for him. I am, too. I mean, I don't wear it on my sleeve like he does, but yeah, I mean, I am. And it's like all this, if you truly believe it's just not going to matter, all this. So it's great for talking in front of cameras. But
so working with him, I guess, was difficult due to his attitude at the time.
Well, you couldn't please him. There was always something wrong every night. We'd have a fucking knockdown match, drag out. I mean, I go 20 minutes with him at, he's 200 pounds and I'm 400 pounds and I'm going 20 minutes with him. I mean, that's a real effort because he could go. I mean, Sean didn't get tired. I don't care if he was hungover or high or, boy, he did just go, 210, 215 and fast too. I mean, all that Japanese, he was like a Japanese guy, and maybe even quicker. And more talented. I mean, Jesus, he could wrestle a broomstick. So we had some great matches, and I was supposed to. I don't know. Something happened. Again, you don't know. I mean, you don't know. Was it the Mastodon thing? But I was supposed to go over him at SummerSlam and pin him, become world champion, and then give it back to Brett, and then what Sid did. Sid took my spot.
Right.
Sid took my spot.
Do you think it took some of the heat away from the SummerSlam match that you did a long series of house show matches with Sean before?
Yeah, we did 19 matches right before there. And I brought that up, and Bruce Pritchard said, no. I said, what do you mean? I just did them.
He went over on all of those matches too,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
He was going over on, and it's like, why weren't we doing a DQ, a 10-minute DQ? And, it's like they'd given up on the angle. They'd given up on SummerSlam, and then they bitched at me because SummerSlam didn't draw.
And of course, I got to ask you about this, the incident at that SummerSlam match where he actually
Can I stop?
Yeah.
Is all this going to hurt? This is off the record, right?
If you don't want to talk about that,
no, it's like it's just gonna
yeah, I'll turn it off so you can do it.
Say the same thing, just change it a little bit.
We'll just restart the Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
Restarting the Shawn Michaels, just to remind me.
Restarting the Shawn Michaels. That's not on my face anymore. You moved it a little bit. There you go.
Okay. So you had a big feud with Shawn Michaels. That was probably your most main event feud in WWE. He's admitted that he was a different person at that time. He's since become a born-again Christian, and he's not self-medicating as much as he used to. Granted, he did have back problems at that time as well, but he has admitted he was on a lot of medication. What was it like working with him in those days at the height of his popularity and the height of his personal issues?
Well, I don't know a whole lot about his personal issues. I do know he had a bad back, and it was always something I had to be cognizant of. Me at 400 pounds and Sean at basically 200 and a little bit. But bottom line with Sean, he was a perfectionist, and if things weren't right, he'd let you know. And I'm a perfectionist, and things were 99% right, but there's always, when you're moving that fast, when you're thinking in front of 10,000 or 15,000 people, and we were averaging 10, 12, 15,000 people at house show with Sean and I. The house business really picked up. We were, and the matches were excellent. They weren't just good; they were excellent. And because with my size differential, we could make them feel for us. And when we popped it, man, they came because they liked Sean. Sean was a great champion.
And leading into that SummerSlam match, you had quite a long series of house show matches with Sean.
I think that hurt it. I think I'd counted 19, and I told Pritchard and Vince that. That's just my opinion, but those matches, where I was coming up on the losing end, I think they hurt the number, and it wasn't a good number. I think we would have, had we done some DQs and maybe put me over a couple times. I mean, who knows what we would have done there.
And of course, I got to ask about this because everyone always talks about it. Because I guess Sean broke kayfabe during that SummerSlam match and actually yelled at you during a match for messing.
Like I said, he's a perfectionist, and there was a spot where he came off the top rope and was going to drop an elbow, and I was supposed to move, and I didn't. I forgot. And hey, he let me know. We went on, but.
Where would you rank Sean among the top workers you've wrestled, like among the Mudas and the Sting?
Wow. You see, when you mention Muda and you mention Inoki, Akiyama, Kobashi, those are pretty good wrestlers. Kobashi's, Kobashi is limited athletic, but he's real big. But man, he's like a machine. He just goes from one spot to the next, and rapidly. And he knows the Japanese timing, so he can create those big, pops. And Inoki's Inoki, oh my God. But I think Flair should be in that group. Akiyama, Kobashi, Inoki. Who else did I say?
I was asking if you would put Sean in that group.
Yeah, definitely. I was just gonna say that. I put Sting in that group, and I put. Sean probably at the top of that list. I don't know if Sean in his prime, I don't know if there is a better worker. And I've kind of flip-flopped this and saying that, Mizawa. Probably Mizawa in his prime. Mizawa in his prime. Because Mizawa, he gained a bunch of weight, started smoking, and was chain smoking. when I worked for him and for Noah, he all day long, every day, until he got in a match, he would smoke a cigarette one after another. And you know what? Still go 20 minutes. It's just incredible. With Japanese style 20 minutes. So I think Sean and him in their prime would probably, and I'm talking about Mizawa's prime, probably when he was, in his early 20s, 22, 23, 24.
And Sean, of course, is known as a great worker, a guy that's known a lot of times as a difficult worker, as the Ultimate Warrior. You had some matches with him in WWE. What were those like?
Yeah, the Warrior we can't really mention him in this group, but for me, I mean, it just, I think the Warrior wanted, in other words, Warrior was used to people just standing back and watching him work and letting him do things. And with me, it wasn't like that. So, we'd lock up and engage him. And so I think he got really frustrated with what I was doing. And like, no one treats me like this. So, well, wait a minute, why not? So.
Is it true that once at a house show, you actually walked to the back in the middle of a match because you became frustrated with him, and then you ended up coming back to the ring to finish?
I don't remember that. I really don't. And I'm not trying to cop out, but I really don't remember. So
that was one of the things that was discussed on the Bruce Pritchard recent podcast. And another thing that Bruce brought up was, I guess there was a rib played on you by Vince and Owen at the Slammies.
Yeah. I was pissed, legitimately. And you know what? If I could have caught Owen, but Owen, he was too smart. He as soon as he did that to me, I really reached for him. All my NFL speed exploded and I couldn't catch on. So.
Were you working for the company the night that he passed away?
No. I wasn't there.
Were you close with him at all?
Yeah, Owen, we started in Japan. One of my first trip to Japan, Owen was on the roster, him and Steve Blackman. They were there.
Speaking of Steve Blackman, he's actually come out with a story where apparently, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but apparently there was some issue with you guys in Japan, and he showed up at a WWE show wanting to fight you or something.
You know what? If he wanted to fight me, why didn't he? I mean, I don't have anything good or bad to say about him. I don't think about him. I don't know. But it's like suddenly everyone's coming out of the woodwork now with, it's like, I don't know. It's just one after another.
And one legitimate fighter that you did work with was Ken Shamrock. What were those matches like? Because those were pretty stiff matches.
Well, I broke his ribs in the one cage. The floor was like cement. I mean, literally. And I picked him up, and I think I'd hit him in the ribs with a clothesline type thing. I caught him pretty good, and then picked him up and slammed him, picked him up over my head, pressed him, and brought him down, slammed him on that thing. Because you know what? Kenny was laying him in there. I mean, he'd hit you in the face, and so you didn't mind hitting him back, or you didn't mind slamming him pretty good. Like, hey, if you're going to do that, and, I'm going to do this. And but nothing but good things to say about Shamrock. But he started coughing up blood. So, and with the match, I won by, he just couldn't go.
And you had a couple matches with Ahmed Johnson, who was known for being a bit of a sloppy worker. Did you have any problems wrestling with him?
No, he was a big, strong brawler. Yeah, big guy.
And working with Bret Hart, what were your memories of working with Bret? I know you were part of that Canadian Stampede match against him, I believe.
I didn't understand. It's like when you fight Shawn Michaels, you go, wow, there's real talent. Ric Flair, same thing. Sting, same thing. Inoki, same thing. All those guys over in Japan, Akiyama and Kobashi, and, wow, these guys are talented. And then I didn't see it. Brett was like, he's a pretty average worker. He just, I mean, I'm not saying he's not capable of a great match, but it would have to be his style. That ground game where he's switching and another wrestler, in other words, switch from hold to hold. But he couldn't adapt and get out of that style, you know.
Was Bret Hart ever over really well in Japan? I know he spent some time there.
I don't remember it. I don't remember Owen. I mean, you see that? I'm going to put myself over, but I mean, I don't know. Hogan got over in Japan, right?
Right.
I got over in Japan. Stan Hansen got over in Japan. I mean, I think Shawn Michaels, being as small as he would have had a little more trouble because they would have peppered his ass. He would have really had to fight, but he would have got over. Flair would have gotten Flair. But, you know, even Flair, did he really get over like Stan Hansen or
He wasn't on the level of those, but he fought top guys, I guess.
Yeah, but was he over like that of Stan Hansen? You know?
I don't live in Japan, but I wouldn't say he's considered one of the guys on your
But,
level.
I mean, he got over. I mean, but I understand what you're saying. But it's like, it's I don't know. It's easier said than done, you know, in both places.
Did you work with Vince Russo at all in WWE?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, has his own podcast now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I got an email that he wants to interview me.
But you never had any issue with him. And I'll just ask you about Bruce Pritchard because of his podcast. He said overall you guys got along well.
Yeah, we did. I thought so.
And I guess your last match in WWE was against Edge. Do you have any memories of that?
Yeah, Ed was a young kid and scared, and I put him over. I beat him up a little bit and put him over, and boy, he had a great career.
What led to you leaving the WWE at that point?
Yeah, it just my usefulness. In other words, as long as I was useful and making good money, I stayed. It wasn't the role I necessarily wanted to play, but I felt, you know, I'm with The Undertaker, I'm with Shawn, I'm with
Oh, I didn't ask you about The Undertaker. I have to ask you about The Undertaker.
Davey Boy, I'm with, you know, so when I was productive, whether it didn't matter whether I was being put over or not, it just mattered if I was part of the plan, you know. And then once I became not part of the plan, I got, pretty much I just asked for my leave and I went back to Japan. It was like 10 days. I left WWE and I think it was 10 days later I was world champion for Baba. So.
And before we just go back into that, what was it like wrestling The Undertaker?
He has his own style and his own pace. His pace is a little slower because of the dead man routine. And I think he knows how to do it. And it takes a longer match to get to people. You know, where if you work at a little quicker pace, you know, that whole the dead man and he takes, everything's methodical. He takes the choke slam, he puts it over, you know, and then, you know what I'm saying? So, for me, I think things happen a little quicker than that, you know, to build the spot, you know, to build that one where you get that big pop, and then you take it from there. So, he knows what he's doing, though. I'm not suggesting, saying that that's not my style.
And you got along with him outside the ring, no problem?
Oh, yeah, very much so. He's a great guy. But I think, what can you say? He's Undertaker.
And so you went back to All Japan. As you said, you were champion very quickly. Was it them contacting you as soon as they found out?
No, I had something set up. You know, I had talked to Stan. And Stan said, Baba wants you at this much money. And that as soon as you get here, they're going to put the belt on you. And then once you give that up, then we're going to put tag belts with Stan and I. And we had to help. Stan was, you know, getting... he's a little long in the tooth. But boy, talk about a tag partner. What a great partner. Jesus.
Is it true if you hadn't gone to WWE that there was interest in making you guys a tag team around that time when you left WCW?
Yeah.
Japan?
Yeah, that was the first. Stan said, come and we'll be tag champs. And probably is what I should have done. You know?
And was Johnny Ace working for All Japan at that point?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy working with him?
Yeah, Johnny was, and you know what? The odd thing about it, he said he was going to go back when he got done wrestling. He was going to go back to America and get a job as a executive employee. It's like, so one guy that I think did it. That's a tough nut to crack, that.
Oh, yeah. And his brother, of course, is Animal. I haven't asked you about the Road Warriors yet. They're, of course, they're on that same level as you in Japan as far as popularity.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Did you have much contact with them over the years?
Yeah, only wrestled a couple times in my prime and their prime. But we always got along good. And Animal, I mean, great workers, a great tag team.
And you won the Noah tag team titles with Scorpio when you were working in Japan as well. Any thoughts on Scorpio? That's another guy we did an interview with.
Scorpio, man, is just what a talent. Jesus, he can do anything. And you know what? A great matchmaker. That's what other than the fact that he can do it in the ring, it's great. But he could create in the locker room. And that was my forte. I could create in the locker room. In fact, when maybe because of my position, within the company, but pretty much everywhere I went, when I first started out with Inoki, it was after that debut. Inoki was trying to call a match, and I kept, saying, well, what if we did this, and what if we did this? And then so, people always looked to me to call the matches throughout my career, except for maybe Sean, but even with Sean, I was pretty vocal.
What would have been the highlight for you of that last run in Japan, the last major run in Japan you had after WWE?
Well, I had a couple years with Stan, and then Stan retired, and then Baba died, and Mizawa jumped ships, and he offered me.
For people that don't know who Misawa is, do you want to just explain?
Mitsuharu Mizawa, he's the Sachu-san, the boss of Noah, and he was a megastar as a babyface heel for Baba, babyface wrestler.
And you also work with Kobashi too, I guess.
Kobashi, and Akiyama was real good. Kobashi probably had my better matches with, but because Akiyama was just, he couldn't. Where Kobashi could was, because I'd test him. I mean, I would really lay it into him, and Akiyama would kind of fold with her,
And you're probably sick of answering these incident questions for now, so this is the last one I'll ask you. There's a story that you apparently roughed up and know a young boy that was the son of one of the mafia guys, and they had a little confrontation with you in an elevator. Is there any truth to that?
No. If you're saying I actually physically grabbed a...
No. The story is there was a young boy in Noah that I guess you had one of your regular Vader style matches with, nothing totally out of the ordinary, but because he was connected.
You have to understand my position at this point. I mean, from Inoki, New Japan, to All Japan, to, it's like Bruiser Brody fighting Young Boy. No, do what you want. Beat him up. I mean, unless you really hurt him, which I never did.
Right.
I mean, if you tried to break his wrist or his neck or something, maybe they would.
Yeah.
But no, it's good for him. I mean, that was their style.
Right. So that's just rumor.
Just bullshit, like everything else, like a lot of things are.
And you ended up having a couple matches in TNA. Any thoughts on those?
No, they don't. It was, it was time to me to slow down. You know what? I was really getting out of shape at this point and gaining weight. So I took a couple years off and I made a really big run, comeback. I mean, I'd gotten in great shape. I think I was like 400 pounds and just really overweight and out of shape. I was just tired. And you know what? My knees hurt so bad. In other words, when your knees go at my size, they go, and its pain is so bad. In other words, you're taking 8-10 pain pills a day just to walk around. And then in other words, you would wake up in the morning, you'd take 2 or 3. And then about halfway through the day, take 2 more. And then match time, take 3. get to the match, and after the match, they really hurt. You have to take, so it's just, and you're getting drugged out. I mean, it's starting to show. This is, 25 years ago. So, so what I did is I went home. I knew that I just couldn't wrestle anymore with his knees, so I got him replaced. I was living in Denver, and I got a doctor, and I replaced him. And man, it's like, I decided, well, God, someone said, Stan said, Leon, I got new knees, and they're great, and you're going to find out they're great because that's who I was listening to. Stan's knees went, and when his knees went, is when he retired. My knees went, and that's when I retired. You can't do it. You cannot stand the pain. I fought it for a long time. I was getting extra pain pills. So I had one more year, and I can, I can have enough money where I can really be comfortable for a while and, take care of my knees. But, so I got the knees done and, lost some weight, got down to 350, and had a real good run in the independent market,
And you were also a top star in UWF, which was a very shoot-style company in Japan. Is there any reason why you never went into shoot fighting? Just you were too old by the time it became popular?
Yeah. That's it. If see, when I was of a mind to do it, I said, well, how much money are they making? I mean,
you can make more wrestling.
Well, a lot more, not, substantially more. So why would you take a risk having one of these guys, really hurt you or beat you, even worse? Either way you're hurt, right? And for what? For just a little bit of money. Maybe a third of what you're making in a week,
Are you proud of your run in UWF, which was an extremely physical...
It's saying UWFI.
UWFI, sorry.
Yeah.
Got to get confused with Bill Watson.
Yeah, I was the world champion. In other words, out of all those people, Dan Severn, all those big Americans, Gary Albright, myself, there was Tinta, and just, the list kept going. And, Albright really wanted to get that first title. He was vying for it. And so their first, Nobu Takada and I, we went 30 minutes and 50,000 people outside, outdoor arena in the tennis gardens. We tore it down. So.
Do you think that style of wrestling could get over in the States now?
You'd have to, you'd have to let it go though. In other words, what I saw, that when I let it go, in other words, really start hitting these guys, not for a knockout, but letting it go.
Yeah.
Clubs, when you hit a guy here, you're not going to knock him out. You come with a club here, you're not going to knock him out, but letting it go.
They'll feel it, and you're not going to cause any serious damage.
But you're going to knock
like
the
a
piss
football
out.
Tackle.
And you could tell the crowd intensity came. But if you got a shooter working the shoot that's, holding back his punches, then it's actually worse than a worked wrestling match.
Now, on the opposite end here now, I see, and even it's happening in Japan in some companies, there's people doing this dick-grabbing stuff, and there's people wrestling invisible wrestlers.
That makes you sick. It's like...
Yeah.
How... I saw a picture in a Japanese magazine. This guy was on his knees selling, and he had a hold of this guy's nuts. It's like, where's that? How did that occur? I don't understand the style. What is it?
It's disgusting. You can't even really defend wrestling now. If someone says, look what happens in pro wrestling, how could you defend that?
You can't defend that, but oh my God. I saw that and I thought it was a joke. I thought it was
There's lots of copycats of that now. I know you probably don't follow it as much as I do because I'm younger, but yeah, it's unfortunate. And I understand that you were a high school football coach again at one point. Is that true? Not again, but you went back to coaching football. That's on the internet anyways.
Yeah, at a college, at a junior college, yeah.
What were your intentions with that? Just...
You know what? See if that'd get hired. I wanted to be the defensive coordinator. And you know what? It would have been a huge cut in pay and, but you get paid the whole year and you only work, 2 or 3 months.
And I know you follow MMA a little bit. Did you happen to see CM Punk's MMA match recently?
No, I didn't. And you know what? I'm not going to beat up on Punk, and uh, I wish him all the best. I think he's courageous, um, for trying, because I don't think he has the tools, the physicality to be a shoot fighter, and yet he's trying. And I don't know if he's getting paid.
Apparently, he made $500,000 for that one.
That one match, well,
Yeah.
shit. I mean, it's.
He wants to have another one. He's trying to get another one.
I don't see him. I mean, other than having one match every 3 years, I don't see him having a very long career. Did you see him in that picture, in the recent photo? He looked anemic. He had skinny neck, skinny arms. It's like all this time in the gym, and just even a lightweight like him would have developed muscularity.
Do you think that it's good for the wrestling business that I think he was a 3-time WWE champion could be dismantled so quickly in MMA? Is that good for the overall health of the wrestling business?
No, I think it's apples and oranges, and certainly Punk was over because he could talk, not because he could wrestle. His average, he was pretty average wrestling. He just didn't have the physicality, didn't have the strength, didn't have the believability. I mean, if like Bill Goldberg, he's not the best wrestler in the world, but he's believable because he's so physical.
Did you see Bill Goldberg's return recently?
Yeah.
What do you think of Goldberg coming back and being the top guy again?
Good for business. I mean, they did a number, right? Brock Lesnar and him, and they'll do another number. That would be a huge, huge match when they come back. That's business, man.
What do you think
Business
of
is business.
Lesnar, since you bring up his name?
Brock?
Yeah.
Shit, he's the real deal, right? I mean, I think Brock come back to beat Goldberg, right? Just my opinion. And then where's Brock go? And man, that monster, 6'8", Braun Strowman. Wow. And just power galore. I mean, Brock is so proud. In other words, when you saw Brock fight,
Mark Hunt?
no, wrestler.
Oh, I don't watch it.
Samoan Italian.
Oh, Roman Reigns.
Roman Reigns. Man, he was serious, and he wouldn't let Roman try to fight back. You would think, well, come on, give him a little bit. He wouldn't. He just kept snuffing him and snuffing him and snuffing him. So,
do you think that's a problem that like a lot of the newer guys actually aren't tough and able to actually impose their will a little bit?
No, but there's one guy that can impose his will.
Well, Lesnar.
Braun.
Okay, Braun.
He's 6'8". He's 400 pounds. He's not fat. He's ripped.
Yeah.
He's 390 pound.
I haven't seen him, but I've heard of the name. So.
Jesus, you haven't seen this guy?
No.
No, he's got. I mean, okay, 1993. I could 580 bench and 365 over my head. Now I don't know if he can do those numbers, but with the leverage he produces at 6'8" with those boots on, so 6'9", 6'10", and you figure I was 6'4" with my boots on, maybe a little more because I had he's a 1993. He's 5 inches taller version of me, and it's scary. It's scary. It's the power he possesses. He grabbed Roman Reigns up with one hand, threw him over his shoulder, and actually saw air. I saw 2 feet between us, dropped him on the shoulder and caught him, and jumped at 2 feet off the ground with Roman. I mean, that's going to be a matchup. And Brock better be ready for that one. He better be, you know what? He better be 320, 325, and that might not be enough.
So for the people that you enjoy from the current product, it would be guys like Brock and Braun. They'd be the main ones you're looking at.
Braun, I just for the size. I mean, people have compared me in my prime to Brock, and obviously I didn't have the amateur skills. So in other words, if I would have fought Brock, maybe if I could stalemate him standing up, he could always take me down, and when you get tired, a guy that's an amateur, that's got amateur skills, is gonna get over. And then just for sheer size, you know, I mean, I didn't have the height, but I had the same weight, and I had the same strength advantage over. You know, it's like he has no fear. I mean, it's just, and Brock's the only one that could even come close.
What do you think of Randy Orton?
Good worker, probably one of the best workers on the roster. Yeah, probably the best. I don't think he's ever. I don't know. I don't know why he's. You know, has he been champion? He has, right?
Oh yes, many times. Yeah. I think he may have been the youngest champion ever.
Yeah.
And John Cena, I got to ask you about him.
You know, it's hard to argue success. I mean, Jesus. God, he's just broke Ric Flair's record. Making one year he made $25 million. He's doing great.
What about the Rock, who's probably one of the biggest stars in Hollywood, if not the biggest now?
He's the biggest. He's the biggest box office.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's doing $50 million a year for the last 5-6 years. So that's tough enough, man.
Who would you like to wrestle the most out of today's stars if you could have a match with one of today's guys?
I don't know. In my prime?
Yeah.
93, 92, 91. And I was so strong. I don't know, a wrestling match, not a shoot?
Yeah.
God, probably Lesnar. And right after he beat Braun, you know? Because you got to figure they're going to put him over. But that'll be Braun's first defeat. And you got to watch this guy if you haven't seen him. You haven't seen him yet?
No.
No, since he came, brother, he's a foot taller than everybody. He's as tall as LeBron James. He's 400 pounds.
That's impressive. I will.
And he's not. You know what? There's not an ounce of fat. It's just ripped. That's scary.
What do you see for the future in general of the wrestling business now that there's only really one main company in North America and worldwide, really, but New Japan still exists. It's pretty strong. But it seems like the wrestling business overall, there's less places to work for wrestlers. Do you see that a bright future? Or do you see other companies popping up?
Yeah, I see other people. You know what? It's like Japan is limiting access. You know, you have to pay your own ticket to get over there, right?
Unless you're with New Japan, from what I understand, if you're an American, yeah.
Yeah.
There's less money in
so
other
they're
companies.
They're limiting access, and you really want it. You really want to come. There's one kid over in England, a little lightweight.
Oh, Will Ospreay, that I think I've heard. That
He's really talented. I had a match with him. My back was hurt. I couldn't do much, but I beat him and went over, and he's real talented. He's got a lot of great gymnastic skills, and he's leaning toward the gymnastics side rather than the story side. And what he needs is just bring it back a little, bring the gymnastics back just a tad, and tell a story. And man, he'd be so good. It's scary.
Did you enjoy that match?
Yeah, I did. You know, just him flipping around, me catching him, and choke slamming him, and then beating the hell out of him for a little bit, and then let him do it again. It was just a series of spots. Nothing complicated. Just me stopping him, popping him, popping him. You got someone that can do. He's phenomenal. He's not just good. He's phenomenal.
I understand the crowds are pretty good over there too.
Yeah, they were hot. They hated me. It was like, fuck, bleep you, Vader, before the match. I never heard that. Straight out. The F-U-C and the bump.
If any UK promoter sees this, would you be open for a rematch with him?
No, he's already said he don't want one. Yeah.
Oh, what's the reasoning for that?
Because I told him I knew I had to go over because I'd never get another shot at him.
Yeah.
So I got over there, and we hadn't talked about who was going over, and I said, well, I'm going over. That's why I'm here. And it was like an old ring general, making sure I went over because, if he's getting all the high spots and then he goes over, it's like, what's left for me?
Yeah.
I mean, I would heat him. So. I would heat him, give him some heat, and then pop him, right? That's what the match was about, so I had to go over. And people don't understand that. So, you're old and you're retired, but, why would you put him over? And they were kind of upset that they did.
And what would you like your legacy to be in this business when people look back on it?
I don't know. I'm getting, best big man ever, best super heavyweight ever. I think that's realistic. I don't know, I don't know. That's every tweet I get has something to do with the Hall of Fame and being, the best ever at either the best big man or the best super heavyweight. I think more appropriate the best super heavyweight because, there's like Andre's a giant. I'm a super heavyweight. Undertaker's a big man at 320.
Right.
Kane's a big man.
And just to set the record straight, in my opinion, anyways, a lot of people will put Bam Bam Bigelow in your category as best heavyweight. But was he ever as over as you in Japan or really in North America?
He was a title in Japan, set the tag belt with me. And there's a reason for that. He couldn't put, after 10 he was done. And they needed you to go 15, 20, and 25, and often 30. And I had conversations. I said, why not drop to Bam Bam? Because you can't depend on him to be in shape. So yeah, I don't know if that makes him good or bad, or he didn't have he was a diabetic early, and I guess that's why complications from diabetes, he died. And may he rest in peace. But Bam Bam was really talented, and as a tag team guy, because you could go spell him, and vice versa. And I'm not saying he would short arm me in a tag match because, in other words, I would go out there and I'd go as long as I could, right? And when we were tag team champions, and then he would do the same in return. So we were, we had 800 pounds. We were a really good tag team. And it was, to see about the same height, 6'2", 6'3", and both 400 pounds.
And your son was in WWE under developmental contract for a while.
Yeah, he got hurt. He tore up his leg and was out 200 days rehabbing that. And then he came back from that and then hurt his back. And it was time to part ways. And I think it was good, because Jesse landed on his feet. He left and he got a great job in Dallas. I mean, he's making a lot of money, He's very secure with what he's doing.
I just have one more question, but this camera just died.
Battery?
Yeah. But literally one more minute.
What time is it?
Let's see, 5:24.
Wow.
I think we started around 2:30.
Yeah, it's not as long as we thought.
It's good. Got all the questions though.
Let's go eat. I'm hungry.
I just picked them up a bit faster when you were getting tired.
Where's my purse? Oh, there it is. Yeah, I don't, I want to hit Chael, but I don't want to hit him hard. Because it's like, that's what he wants, when I start thinking about it.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there debating should we film it again and just say, look, I don't want to talk about this guy. He's an unknown. I didn't know his name before. I don't know his name now. I really don't want to talk about him.
It was pretty hilarious what you said, though. I won't use the whole thing. I'll shorten it down. But I really think it'll get your shoot more publicity because that would give it a kick for
Please
people.
don't come back on me though, like you said. Right now I couldn't fight. I couldn't fight him because of my back. But I got an injection in my back, right? Cortisone. And I went and worked out that day, and since then I can't hardly walk. And you're supposed to wait 2 days. So
yeah, the more you wait, the better.
Yeah, and then so in other words, that medicine is spread out. I think I spread it out over the whole back, and it's hurting. You want to go to the Cork and get a steak?
Sure.
The prime rib?
Definitely.
We'll split this one. This will be expensive to have.
Yeah, I got it. I'll get mine.
This will be $100, 120 at the Cork. The prime rib is just unbelievable. Baked potato prime rib, some shrimp cocktail, salad. Oh, shit. I will walk out of there completely stuffed.
All right, finally. I'm just going to restart this so I don't get confused. You mentioned Twitter a few times. For people who want to follow you on Twitter, what's your Twitter handle?
At It's Vader Time. Follow me. It's hilarious.
Is that the only social media you have, or you?
Yeah, that's it. That's all I care to have. I like tweeting though. I enjoy it. It's like I seem to constantly be looking for my phone. And, want to check if I got a tweet or. Yeah, it's fun.
So that's your legitimate one, and it's you answering for anyone that wants to see it.
Yeah, if you got a booking, yeah.
Yeah, if anyone wants to book you, it's through Twitter.
I am still wrestling, and I've got doctor's approval where I can wrestle at this point, and shoot, it'd be a great crowd.
And for fans that want to see you in the WWE Hall of Fame, what do you suggest they do?
I can't. You know what? I'm grateful to be considered, and I hope I will be considered. But you just can't. You can't piss these guys off. You can't.
You have some big people pull in for you, some big people on your side, so you never know.
Yeah, that's nice. It really is.
Are you going to be doing autographs or anything in Orlando this year?
I hope so. I did the last couple of years. But you never know with this illness. They might, I don't know. It's like, do you think it would be awkward around the other guys to me?
If Abdullah the Butcher's showing up to this thing, I'm sure it's not going to be awkward for you to come in.
Abdullah Butcher, he's showing up to the Hall of Fame thing?
To the autograph sessions. You're talking about the actual WWE Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if it'll be awkward for that. I thought you meant like the WrestleCons and stuff like that. Because there's all sorts of autograph things.
I'm going to WrestleCon.
Well, you will be at WrestleCon.
So.
And finally, any message to your fans that are watching this?
I kind of want to end up this interview. It's like, I don't know. It's kind of a surreal feeling to, be told by a heart specialist that you have 2 years to live. And yet I don't feel as if I'm dying. I feel good. In a lot of ways, I feel better than I did before he told me. And I kind of want to go thank him because, I'm taking my vitamins. I've lost weight. I'm riding the bike literally a half hour every day. And that's hard to do for me. Because it's just mentally you get to 15 minutes and you go, oh, that's enough, right? But I push forward to 30 minutes and I'm working out every day. So I feel good. I'm looking better. And I kind of owe it to this guy. So, but I will probably be, coming up with an announcement soon. I'm going to Atlanta and spend some time with Diamond Dallas Page. And the goal is to lose 100 pounds and eat better. And he's going to take care of all that. And I can't thank Diamond enough. But you know what his signs are? His Twitter and all that?
We'll put it at the end of this.
Yeah, please do. Diamond Dallas Page, at Diamond Dallas Page.
It'll be in the end credits anyway.
Yeah, end credits, and then I'm going to go to Plano, and again, there's some of the best heart people in the world, and the United States and the world. Let me put it that way. So, I feel fine. I take it from there.
All right. Thank you very much, and best of luck with your health.
You bet.
Well, can you finish it off with It's Vader Time? No, just kidding.
Sure.
We'll do that for your fans.
What do you do?
I'll just edit it in. I'll ask you. I'll ask it for you. And just for your fans, can you give us one? It's Vader Time.
You think it'll be the last one ever? That's why it's not going to be the last one. But from the power I said, from the power of the Rocky Mountains and Boulder, Colorado, I bring you the Prince of Power. For it's time, it's Big Van Vader